Hey team, it's time for an Early Career Designers portfolio review. I'm Megan Thomas, and I'm a senior UX designer with almost 10 years of experience in enterprise software design. I've taught and mentored over 300 early career designers through UC Berkeley's UX UI Design Bootcamp. In this video, I'm going to review an early career designer's portfolio and share my thoughts as a senior designer. My goal is to provide actionable feedback to help them succeed as they look for a job in the UX industry. Join me for a stream of consciousness walkthrough as I assess one of their case studies. Remember, mine is just one opinion. Make sure to get multiple perspectives before making any changes. All right, let's dive into the review and learn together. Hey Pri, thank you so much for letting me review your portfolio. I really appreciated. I really wanted to speak directly to you. I know we are recording this and sharing it on my YouTube, but I wanted to speak directly to you, Pri, because you left some comments in the forum that I really, really resonate with. I completely understand. Your professional experience, you said, one of the questions that I ask on the intake form is, what has your professional experience been like since graduating? And you said that you attended one of the University of California partner programs with, and did the 6-month UX UI bootcamp. And since then, it's been a little bit disappointing and depressing. And I feel you. My heart goes out to you. And you're not alone. That doesn't make you feel better. Trust me, I know that. You're not alone, but I also feel like you're in a different place than a lot of folks are. So it might just be about maybe targeting the kind of companies that you really want to work for. I haven't really had a chance to talk to you about what your job searching has been like, but I need you to know that this is the hardest time I think I've ever seen anyone try to get a job in UX, and it is no reflection on you. And I'm about to go through your portfolio, and I did actually, normally it's I click through and it's just all right, we're experiencing this together. But because you said that you would really like a good grading of your UX case studies, I wanted to be really mindful as I go through them. And you also had a question. Most people don't fill out this part of the form. Most people have no questions for me whatsoever. And I really appreciated your question. So your question was, is UX still relevant in the age of AI? And I can imagine where you might be coming from with that question, because it feels like right now you're seeing just a nonstop amount of excitement, enthusiasm, and never-ending content created by AI. And I need you to know that it's not going to replace us. I have zero worries about AI replacing my job, me specifically, but also user experience design. And I say this because with confidence, and I say this because artificial intelligence is never going to be able to simulate the human user experience. They'll be able to come close. We will constantly be feeding the algorithms, the machine learning that helps understand us and develop those results that we're seeing. But there is never going to be a replacement of user experience design with AI. They will try. They will definitely try. There will be some people who are, there's a lot of folks in the entrepreneurial space, a lot of folks in the tech space at the top who would, for some reason, like to replace humanity with AI. I don't know why. I really couldn't begin to tell you. It's like they see humans as the slow to adopt and hard to change the mind of, and they really just want results faster. And they'll get results faster with using AI. They will get some results, absolutely. Will they get the good results? Will they get the results that truly connect with a human? Will they get deeply empathetic results? Will they get results that enable a human to grow and become better? No. They'll get something like it, but they will not get the result that actually replaces UX designers with human empathy with AI. They will not. I will put this on the record right now. I'm recording this on December 3rd. They're not replacing us. Some people will be replaced. Some tasks will be replaced. Some actions, some outputs will be developed by AI. but the true human empathy at the other side of the screen is never going to be replaced. So I say this, and I also say this in the context of your homepage, which is I design, dance, and dream on loop. And that is what it is to be human. We dream, we design, we dance, we create our life experience. And we do it on loop every day. You're absolutely right. Every day we kind of shut down like the computer and we let our brain kind of rest so that we can come back tomorrow with all of this interesting information that has been put away in our brain almost mechanically, because that's what our brain is created to do. But none of that is going to be replaced by AI. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort. And those of you out there who are wondering the same question, I hope that gives you comfort. I do not believe we're going to be replaced by AI, especially when I look at some of the artwork that you've done. I did click over to your art room first, because I always love when people share their art. I have always been really hesitant to share my art. So putting it out there, I just want to congratulate you on being willing to put something that is so deeply emotionally personal out on the internet for anyone to see. I will say that your target areas are really, really small. It looks like there's some padding around the link item, but you can see that when you hover on it, for some reason, it's squishy. Maybe you intended that, but I will say visually, it gives a hint of inaccessibility. So I would double check and make sure that is really easy to process. But other than that, I love that you've kept your, I believe Hogwarts exists. I love that you have kept your homepage really simple and really personal to you. So let me click through your work. And I had some thoughts on this too. I really want to congratulate you on using something enticing like a question to draw interest in your portfolio case studies. I will say that if we are listing this first your way, I would suggest, and this is strictly because we're humans, we're mostly again, I'm here in the US. I think you are as well for now. We read from left to right, top to bottom. So I would say your first item in your list of projects should be left aligned. If you wanted to change up that pattern and make the other side, the second one, fit on the right-hand side, that's totally fine. But I will say that this is just a tiny bit confusing. Got to figure out, wait, my eyes first went to here and then I noticed that it had a headline. So my first suggestion is just nudge that over to the left, just to make sure people know very clearly that this is a case study, not just a placeholder image. I also really love that you've got these additional projects here. I think you did this while maybe you were in the boot camp, and I love that you have it. Big tip is I would not have those open to the actual project where people can see the pages of your slide deck. I would download this as a PDF, and then I would link that project item right here, that button, and I would link that to the PDF so that people can go and scroll through it. I know it's not the ideal situation. Sometimes we really, really want people to take that left arrow and over to the right and move through, but I think it's going to be a little bit more fresher feeling, a little bit more professional looking if both of these click through, not to the Google slide deck, but to the PDF slide deck. I would also even consider putting your logo designs over on your art side, because I feel like that aligns just a little bit closer to artwork and things that you produce, and not necessarily your work, your case study work. If you had created a logo that followed kind of a UX process where you're working with someone, they're like, I need a logo. Great. What kind of logo do you need? What does it need to convey? What kind of project is this? I think that would be appropriate if you were to create a case study out of creating a logo, but it just feels a little disjointed here. So I would consider putting that in your art room. Loving that you've created kind of an at a glance for your case study. So you've got your information here. So you've got your title, the app on a journey, also very interesting, not just a travel app. And I really love, how about a travel app that's friends with your pocket? That's interesting. It makes me want to click in and go, what do you mean a travel app that's friends with my pocket? That is compelling and interesting. That makes me want to click through and find out, what are you actually going to answer? It's actually a marketing tactic. I've been reading more about how to build your YouTube presence. Hello, here's me from YouTube. But this idea of asking a question and then having someone read or watch your content in order to answer that question, that's really compelling. And in terms of gamification, that also aligns with a Core Drive 7 from the Octalysis framework that I'm learning, curiosity and unpredictability. We are driven as humans. This is really relevant to some context that I've been reviewing lately, but as humans, we're really driven to connect with negative information. And it's not intentional. It just is by default. Even if I tell someone I'm really only interested in seeing positive news, the actions that I take, clicking on headlines with really negative words used in them, we are still demonstrating, even if we desire more positive information, we are clicking through to negative information. But the reason I bring that up is because as equally compelling as negative information is, equally compelling is curiosity and unpredictability. So all of that to say, context for why that question that you ask is so powerful. So really, really good job kicking your stuff off with that. So you did UI designer and accessibility lead and a group project. I also just realized, did you mention a UX UI designer? This is a little bit slow on the loading. I would expect that to be a little closer. So I would maybe decrease that speed. It feels like it might be a little bit close to 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. I would probably put that at maybe 200 or 300 milliseconds for each of those sections to load, just because that's what we expect on the internet. It felt just a tiny bit slow, but you are marking yourself as a UX UI designer. And so you've done UX research and design, and then you've got a UI design and accessibility lead. Oh gosh, I really want to click on both of these. I kind of want to click on this, but part of me is a little resistant to it because of how many travel apps we see. Now, what's really fascinating is this right here. This is compelling. Can paying HOA dues be an enjoyable experience? My heart tells me no, just no. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a fun and enjoyable experience. So if you have come up with a way to create this, this is amazing. So this is an individual project though, and that is a group project. And all right, I'm going to click through both of them. We're 11 and a half minutes in, and I'm going to tell you, you know what happens, like best laid plans of mice and men, right? Like no matter how well planned you can be, something always kind of interrupts it. And on the 1st of December, I said, I'm going to review 31 portfolios in the month of December. And normally I've been doing just one a week, one on the weekends. And pretty much immediately I started feeling a bug, a little not super awesome in my throat and chest and head. And yeah, you're like the universe. It's kind of like, hey girl, you sure you really want to do that? I do. And the reason I bring that up is because I am not feeling super awesome, and I really hope I do justice to your portfolio, but I'm excited enough to look through both of these. So I'm going to look through your individual project first. So vacation sounds amazing, doesn't it? How about vacation planning? Your mind and body are probably already switching to decision fatigue mode. This is such great writing, Pri. What if there was an app where you could simply key in your budget, set a few preferences, and boom, are ready to travel? What? Your Way is that travel app that aims to minimize the decisions that you need to make. It takes care of the searching, comparing, planning, and tracking so you can simply travel your way. Pri, I'm excited about this project. Let's see it. Fatigue-free travel at your fingertips. Okay, first of all, this is a really great mock-up. I love that you've added some screens in here, and I love that you've even made adjustments to the tools. Like typically, the tools don't really matter what you work on. It's also really helpful not to kind of shoehorn yourself into like, I only use Figma, because some companies are going to say, no, we only use Sketch. Sketch is really helpful. It kind of was where I started and then moved into Figma from there. But Sketch is kind of secure because it's not browser-based. It's not online by default. So don't narrow yourself down into specific tools, but I do love that you changed the logos of those tools in order to align with the visual design of this. That's really cool. So it was an individual project and you worked on it for 4 weeks. Love it. I'd really love to know pretty quickly what specifically that you did. Not just let me scroll through all this and find out what you did, but like, what am I looking for as a hiring manager to know that you're capable of on this project? So the overview says, post-pandemic candid conversations revealed that people were experiencing new kinds of stress related to travel. I'm going to double check on this right here because it feels like we're using a little bit small of a font, or at least maybe I'm just getting old. Well, let's see. Font size 14. I'm not certain that there are requirements for a minimum base level font. And I think that typically I rely on 16 pixels, but 14 is appropriate. It is totally readable. I will say, like, for me, and I'm only 42. I'm not terribly blind, I don't think. I mean, I probably should clean my glasses a little bit more often, but this feels a little small. However, so empathetic user research combined with design brainstorming led to the creation of Your Way. Did design brainstorming lead to it, or did the design brainstorming help you develop the result? Don't give your power away to a process when really and truly, this is exactly why, this right here is why you will not be replaced by AI. So the design brainstorming you can do with the assistance of AI, but you made the decisions. So be clear about, this is some of the things that I did, but I made the design decision. So that is just something I want to tie into that. Will we be replaced by AI? No. Curated budget-based trip bundles at the fingertips of the users. Right now, travel plans have to be made over different platforms, and there is no one place that offers customized itineraries based on the traveler's preferred budget. A product that could ease the anxiety of travel planning and expenditure by offering travel plans based on the user's needs will greatly alleviate decision fatigue and make traveling pleasurable. Okay. I'm excited. Let's look into this some more. So the design process, user research, a little bit of ideation and definition, really cute little clouds you've added in here. Prototyping and testing. I'm really loving the visuals of this. Part of me is really like, what are we working with here? What's our okay, you actually used a Wix site for this? I got to be honest. This is shocking. You must have done a ton of work on your back end on your Wix, because typically I do not see such refinement on Wix sites. Honestly, I'm very impressed. See, it's the iPhone XR, sure. All right, so it's not technically, ooh. All right, so we've got a little work to do on the menu here. Good menu. I'm not sure why this is showing. Okay, no worries. Pulling this through. Oh, interesting. That was overlaid over the image. Good job. That looked totally like I could have downloaded that as an image. I was going to skip past the text in the image, but that's actually accessible. So nice work. Interesting. Oh, one. All right. So maybe we've got a little bit getting to know my users through quantitative. I don't know why this is so hard to scroll. All right. Okay, so mobile is not looking super awesome, and that is, again, Wix is really hard to deal with on mobile, so like no judgment whatsoever on that. Just kind of a heads up that that's going on. This is really good placement of the information on top of an image. Really good job. That was hard, I guarantee it. Okay, so user research. This is supposed to be kind of a visual vertical. I might even consider adding a really, because I was reading this as a linear kind of experience and then expecting to go down to the second and then the third. So I wasn't processing all of those as one unit of information. So what we could do in order to make sure that your user processes that as one unit of information, and I will say, remember, I am not feeling like my top level best, so this could completely just be me right now, and I sincerely apologize. But I would maybe consider putting these in maybe a card visual, like a really light fine line around them, or maybe some what is the word, depth, like a little bit of, I don't like to say drop shadow, but that's essentially what we are if we're using material design, maybe a little bit of depth so that these cards stand apart from the background. That could be helpful. So you got to know the users through qualitative and quantitative analysis and persona creation. Love it. User insight, problem statement, empathy map, and user journey. Okay. Paper sketching, wireframing, and prototyping backed by usability testing. Love it. And then incorporating user feedback at each stage, followed by style and UI design. I'm loving how you've laid out that process so far. In order to gain quantitative and qualitative insights, what does that really mean? on your portfolio, you don't necessarily need to drop in the keywords that you might need to add to your resume or to your LinkedIn profile. So in order to gain qualitative and quantitative insights, no, what do we need to know from our users and what their problems are? So use plain language principles. It feels pretentious. And this is something, it's not you, it is something that you've been taught because you've been given these words and phrases and the way that we talk about things. And it makes it feel like it's very hoity-toity. It's very professional. It's very whatever. But like the nitty-gritty of being a UX designer on a day-to-day basis is not, we gained qualitative and quantitative insights. It's very lovely. No, I talk to my product managers or I talk to my team and say, hey, we did some user interviews and we gathered some really quality insights from them. And here are some quotes. Here are some things that they tell us about what they're facing and what their frustrations are and what their pain points are. So don't feel like you need to drop in these keywords and just speak naturally. Speak the way you would normally speak in an interview. Even like, let's say you're interviewing with a friend where you're talking to someone, you're like, okay, so I just did this project and this was really cool. That's going to give your hiring manager that's reviewing your case study way more sense of who you are and how you're able to communicate rather than just like, I use these keywords. Interested users were conducted, user surveys, user interviews, user surveys were conducted. Tighten this up a little bit. So it says, in order to gain qualitative and quantitative insights, I just transposed those. User interviews and user surveys were conducted. Just say, I created a user interview plan, and in order to find interested users, I set a survey. I put a survey out into the world. I asked LinkedIn, I asked Reddit, I went on travel blogs and asked if they would give me some feedback. The main objectives were to understand the perception of users towards, especially after the pandemic. Hold on, this is confusing to me. The main objectives were to understand, and if I recall, if I'm reading this correctly, these little leaves are saying like 1, 2, and 3. These are your indicators that these are bullet points. So you're to understand the perception of users towards, especially after the pandemic. Towards what? Need to add, I think we accidentally a word. That's a Reddit joke. Their major concerns and priorities when they think about planning a trip. How have they been planning travel so far, and which apps and websites have they been relying on? Pros and cons of those. Let's refine this a little bit and use really plain language principles to say, I want to understand how they've planned their travel so far, what their frustrations are, and what would make it easier to know what to choose so that they can reduce their decision fatigue. Use plain language. All right. Interviews, people survey were 21 responses. That's good. Ages 20 to 40. My fan is blowing my hair into my face. Need to know the average cost of all the activities, bookings, food, commute, etc. in one place. It's extremely important not to exceed my budget, but also enjoy thoroughly. That's actually a really great statement. That is an insight. It's important not to exceed my budget to have a really good time. Yes. 67% of people feared risks due to COVID. Now that you've had some time after that, and now we're kind of post-pandemic, I don't actually know when you conducted this, but you're saying post-pandemic. So if they still have 67% of people feared risks, do you know what those risks are? Is it any risk at all? Or is it just, I'm worried about about my comfort in traveling by air or something like that? So maybe a little bit more specific. 52% were concerned about the inflated costs. Oh, interesting. I'd love to know more about what you found out about what their fears around inflated costs were. Was it the cost of the travel? Was it the cost of the stay, the food, tips? Like, what are these different inflated costs that they're worried about? And then they were hassled by travel planning. I mean, that seems low, honestly, because I think 100% of us feel hassled by travel planning at some point of the process. So maybe a little bit more details. So Abby says it's important not to overspend and wish to have a resource through which I could track inflation in all of the bookings. Are you really wanting to track inflation, Abby? That's a question for Abby, not for you, Pri. In the same place. Additionally, would like if my time spent on these things is also trackable. Abby sounds like he might be a product manager and really enjoy the tracking of stuff on spreadsheets. I am the opposite kind of person, but these are very interesting insights, and I love that you've attached some visuals to them. I would personally prefer, this is visually pleasing, and I know you've spent a lot of work on your Wix. I feel like maybe there's too much information in this space right now. These pieces right over here with the percentages, I would even, I would separate that out a little bit. So I would call out that we had interviews with ages 20 to 40, although that's not terribly relevant. Maybe it'll prove to be relevant and there's a reason that you included it. But maybe it's just like we conducted this many interviews and survey is 21 responses. It's interesting that you've got 21 responses, but you've told me the age groups of the people you interviewed, and they don't feel like they're directly relevant to each other. So I want to know what you're trying to convey by telling me the ages of the interviews versus the number of survey responses. I would even separate these quotes by Abby and Sweta down here. I would separate them out on their own place. They're really interesting and they kind of need more space. They're a little crowded up on this other information, and this is the meat and potatoes of what it is to do UX research. What are some factors that are holding you back while making travel plans? I'd like a little more context for a survey, even though the visual of the survey is really nice. The COVID risks, the fact that people, is it the risk of getting COVID, or is it the exposure in different places in parts of the travel? So I'm a little confused about this, but the visual is beautiful. So again, give it some space. You don't have to crowd everything together. So let's meet our user persona. Instead of just let's meet ... let's add a let's meet our user persona. And I'm really hoping that you've spent the time to build this user persona. I'm hoping that we're going to see Mayu come through the story going forward. So he's a hardworking, compassionate guy with a taste for the finer things in life. He works as a system analyst and keeps himself recharged through travel and adventure. Interesting itineraries, quality time with his partner, explore new places and cultures, one-stop shop for all travel needs. Love to go on as many journeys and make as many memories as possible in this lifetime. Just too tired of planning everything. It sounds like Mayu needs an all-inclusive. Challenges, being overwhelmed by the need to use multiple apps and websites for travel planning. Decision fatigue, overshooting the budgets and dipping into his savings, especially after a slow year. Yeah, that's tough. Okay, this is helpful. He's 28 years old, has a bachelor's degree, system analyst, and Bruno in a relationship. These are always really questionable to me. And I literally think I borrowed this from a video I'm pretty sure that Debbie Levitt created, which is, what is this meant to tell me? What percent? Like, I don't even have numbers. So it's like internet. Is that he's on the internet a lot? Is that he's an internet user? He does all his planning on the internet. What does this measure of progress bar through internet actually mean to me as the hiring manager who is hoping that when I hire you, you're going to be able to do this UX design and research and speak to stakeholders in a way that's meaningful to them. And this isn't really meaningful information. So maybe consider what you're actually trying to say, and instead of using a visual, use words. Or if it feels like words aren't necessary, is the visual actually necessary at all? Let's think about that. So now we're getting into a little bit of an output area. So you've created, you're telling me, let's meet this user persona. And then you go into an empathy map, which is an output of our process as UX researchers, UX designers. So once the user persona becomes a part of the process, creating an empathy map that spotlights their thoughts, emotions, and feelings becomes an essential step. This bridges the gap between a concept and the real world. Sometimes, more importantly, the reason to create an empathy map is why? It's so that we can build empathy. It's so that we understand our user better. And it is so that when we share this output, an empathy map, with our team, with our stakeholders, with our developers, with our QA people, they also understand what our ultimate goal is in building this for this user. So an empathy map is not necessarily essential. I have never once in 10 years created an empathy map for a professional job. It just isn't something that we've done. Is that wrong? Maybe. Is it right? Maybe. It's totally based on the project. It just hasn't been a need that we've created for a project. So I'm wondering if you've created it and added it here because that's the process that you've been taught in your UX bootcamp, but Did you spend additional hours on that in order to develop this empathy map and then again, this visual for your portfolio? And if so, why? What was the outcome from creating the empathy map? Did it help you understand Mayu better? Did it help you understand the decisions you were making better? What did you refer back to that empathy map for? Did you at all? If you never once looked at it again, I would take it out of your portfolio. There is no reason to create an empathy map if you're not going to refer back to it. And if you didn't refer back to it, it was just busy work. It was something that you did. It's an output. But if it didn't help you make better decisions, what was it good for? So it seems like what we can understand from your empathy map is that Mayu really wants custom-made trips based on budget and preferences, and wants simple options. He wants the decisions made for him, but he also wants to know that they're the right decisions to make. So if that helped you make your next decision, fantastic. All right, the storyboard. This makes the persona more relatable and realistic. Another thing, I will not actually say that I've never created a storyboard. I've actually created several storyboards, but it wasn't because it was a task to create. It actually helped me communicate to the rest of my team what was expected at a certain part. And it wasn't just 6 panels. It wasn't just a happy path of what did Mayu experience. It was actually more like, I think it was a step-by-step. It was really like a combined user scenario and storyboard at the same time so that I could really get a handle on what happens when they face this problem. Some of the things that we do in these bootcamp case studies is we oversimplify. It's really easy to just say, well, I made a storyboard and these panels happily heads out to vacay. So like here's meet Mayu and then heads out to vacay. So we only have 4 panels in order to convey the story. Starts to dream of travel. So we're still not talking about the app. Gets overwhelmed by too many options and COVID inflated costs. Talks to a friend who suggests an app, a one-stop solution. Keys in all his preferences and budget. This is easy, trips for you, and then heads out to vacay. So essentially, we've done introduction, their desire. We see that they have reached that this is the rising action. They've reached their frustration, the climax of the action, and then they've talked to a friend and found their solution. But this storyboard is not the actual solution. This is just a hopeful thinking that Mayu finds your app and then goes to vacation. So this is also very beautiful, but it's not totally necessary to convey what you did. Now, competitor analysis, this is helpful. This is something that a hiring manager might ask you to do in your first year as a UX designer to say, hey, well, we've decided to create this feature. We should see what our competitors are doing. Do they have this feature? If they do, what does it accomplish? What is it missing? I would even go through and look at reviews for Expedia, TripAdvisor, Truebill, YNAB. You need a budget. I know exactly what that is. All of these are very, very interesting. I would also go through and look at what their customers are saying, which is a very good competitor analysis, understanding not just what you perceive that competitor to be able to do, but what their customers are actually saying. You can go to Trustpilot or G2. Those are 2 websites that I would typically use to look up competitor technology and find out what their customers are saying, good and bad, about specific features. I've actually done that very, very recently. I should do a video about that. So this is helpful, and this also demonstrates to a hiring manager that you understand that this competitor analysis is to help me understand that we're making the right decisions with our design. So this is valuable. Keep this. At the end, I would actually like to see some sort of, this competitor analysis helped me understand X needed to be included in our app design, or it helped me understand that it would be pointless to create this entire app if it didn't accomplish X and Y. So tell me why this competitive analysis was meaningful to you and what you took away from it and what it helped you decide about the rest of your project. A user flow is really good. Creating a flow or pathway that users would take based on their preferences is a key step in the process. It acts as the bridge between research and design. Sure, okay, I can work with that. This is a little bit small though. Okay, so we'll start, open your way, skip onboarding, sure, go to the home page, my collection. This means that I have something that I have already selected as like or select or keep. My trip. All right, this is all the sign up stuff. Number of travelers, preferred destination, preferred activities, preferred cuisine, packages for you, save trip offline, book trip, select the pack. Oh, okay. Hold on. My collection. Select the package. Goes to my collection. Packages for you. Select the package and then book the trip. Okay. So this user map is visually beautiful. It doesn't totally make sense to me because you haven't given me much context. So instead of giving me an overview of what a user flow is, because I guarantee you a hiring manager knows exactly what a user flow is and they know what they're looking for, this is not communicating that you know what the user flow is for. It acts as a bridge, sure, but what this has hopefully helped you do is understand the process by which the user is actually accomplishing their goals. And this stuff is what we teach you in the boot camp, and I'm still mad about it because an onboarding flow is, honestly, we don't need such a complex onboarding flow if your app is easy to use. So we've taught you a really icky kind of way to go about this that may or may not necessarily help you. This is the essential part, and this would benefit from some more context. So take me through a user flow where I'm entering my information into my trip. So we're entering information. Why? Because this is going to set the parameters for all the selections that we could make on the back end of this app and give Mayu just the options that are perfect for him and make it easy for him to actually accomplish this part right here. So the real important stuff in your user flow is actually here in the bottom right-hand corner, and we're not adding enough context in order to know. Tell me more. Did you look at other websites? Did you download the apps and go through their user flow and compare what that experience is like compared to what your user flow is like? Compare and contrast. Tell me more about what you learned. After looking at 10 different travel apps and their onboarding user flow, I determined that we don't actually need splash screens. We need to get people to their choices as quickly as possible. So we decided that a form would be the very first thing that you needed to do. And then we start giving choices and comparing and contrasting options. That feels like real decision making rather than like, oh, do you have an account? Okay. Paper sketches and lo-fi wireframes. I'm loving the visual design that you have around your whole case study. Like, you've clearly done a ton of work and it's really beautiful. It's really interesting to look at. But give me some context. So paper sketches and lo-fi wireframes. I love this little crumpled up paper ball here. Why did you start with paper sketches? Because it's the cheapest way to develop an idea. That's why we use paper sketches. I do it because I know that I just need to get ideas out on paper and get those in front of users. I would do paper sketches at work if that's the quickest way I could get an answer from a user or someone who could represent my users, like my CS team or my implementation team or even my sales team. So tell me why paper sketches and lo-fi wireframes were necessary, not just because that's the process they told me in the boot camp. Give a reason for why you're doing what you're doing, and a hiring manager is going to see way more value beyond just, this is really aesthetically pleasing, because it is. All right. Guerrilla test and analysis. Me personally, I hate this term. I actually asked if we could take it out of the curriculum. I took it out of my curriculum because I don't appreciate the allusions to war and warfare when it's not necessary. So this is a remote unmoderated test and analysis. Maybe it's a remote moderated test. You got in front of some people on a Zoom and you actually took them through this usability test. Tell me that. The guerrilla test is meant to be like you're pouncing on someone on the street. No one has ever seen this before and you're like, hey, does this work for you? Can you click through this? It is a way to test. It's not the way you're typically going to test in a professional job, unless it's literally like you're pouncing on people coming out of a meeting at your office. Maybe. I also need more context. So you're saying their profession is varied. Then if it's varied and you don't want to specify, take that out. Demographic, great. 20 to 40 years. Are they married? Do they have a budget? What's their average budget? Give me some context for who these people are, especially since you're not going to tell me what they do. 20 to 30 minutes, the duration. I am even questionable about that because I'm like, did you actually get what you needed to do in 20 to 30 minutes? All right, we'll see. And then the test subject, thank you for saying that the actual test subject is the lo-fi prototype and not the users. Good work. Positives, navigation, visuals, reconsider. I need context for this, because even as I am going through your portfolio case study and I'm looking, and I've been here for almost 40 minutes right now and we're still not done, I'm giving as much detail, like perception as possible, and I don't know what this means. So what I want to know is, this visual is beautiful, keep the visual, maybe ditch the demographics one way or another, but I need context. Why did you do this test? What were you trying to find out? What was your test user flow? What was the navigation that you asked them to find out? What visuals? I appreciate you checked the visuals. That's not totally relevant at this point. Reconsider. Things to reconsider. That's your takeaway. That is the reason you did this test. So instead of reconsider as being part of what the user said, no. Give me a, here's what we took away from, or I took away from the user test. I needed to reconsider changing the collection icons. I thought it was really cute to do an idea light bulb, but that didn't resonate with people when most apps use hearts in order to say save. Renaming the navigation. What I took away from this is that people didn't understand the terms, and I needed to be more clear about the labels that I put on the navigation. Those are real insights that you got from doing usability testing, and it's what helps a hiring manager go, okay, so Priyanka you're not just going to go do the testing because you're supposed to do the testing. You're going to do it in order to make decisions and know what to take away and what to add. I would get rid of the style tile unless you are, you know what, keep it. This actually looks really good. This is atypical. This looks really helpful, but again, give me natural next step. Okay, this is actually totally fine. I'm gonna skip past that. Not a visual designer, and honestly, it's not my thing. Ooh, the UI design looks fantastic on here. Absolutely loving that visual. Maybe give me some insights. What's your favorite screen? What's your least favorite screen? What's the screen that you felt like was too complex, but users responded really well to it? Give me some kind of context so I know why you're sharing all this, other than the fact that you should be proud because it's really, really beautiful. Travel is an integral part of people's lives, just as managing their spending is. Okay, that's a good insight. That's actually an insight you could probably add to the very top of this. Travel is an integral part of people's lives, just as managing their spending is. In the lo-fi stage, the app needed some changes with respect to the terminology and iconography to make it more intuitive. Why? So what? What does that mean? Tell me more. The logistics of pairing the app with location services maps could offer some complications during implementation. Don't worry about that. That's not your problem. That's for your dev team to worry about. Offering booking on the app itself could be the next vital step to expand the scope. Why do you say that, and what do you mean? And then give me a, and this is just marketing, I guess, my brain coming in here of like, next, check out my travel. What was the next one? Next, find out, can paying HOA dues be interesting or be exciting, be a good user experience? Guide people into that next step to look at the rest of your portfolio, or say, get in touch. I'd like to interview with you about the roles that you have open, something like that. Give me some interesting connection, or tell me to go back and look at something else. That is a good user experience, because you're not just dropping somebody off in a one-way door. That person has gotten to the end of your case study and now is like, now what? Now what do I do? Guide them to that next experience, and it becomes a really solid user experience. This is one of the longest portfolio reviews I've done in a while, and I really appreciate that you asked for such thorough feedback. And I also really appreciate that you've given so much thought to and refinement to your case study. I can tell that you've put in a ton of work. It needs just a tiny bit more. Thank you for being open to feedback. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to review your portfolio. It's fantastic. I'm so excited. I hope you've learned something. Everyone else, thank you for being here for these portfolio reviews that I do. I would love it if you could leave a comment letting me know what you learned, or letting Priyanka know what you've taken away from this that has been so valuable in you being able to watch her portfolio review. Have a fantastic day, everybody. This actually made me feel better through the process of doing this portfolio case study. Gosh, I really love hanging out with you early career designers. You are inspiring to me, and you are bringing life into my life. I know you are going to be successful. It's just going to take some time. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for the next iteration of this portfolio review, or the next portfolio review. I'll get it right eventually. All right, later.